And what I didn't like about him was that he just like outright didn't believe what they were saying and thought that they were like trying to play like some type of tricks on him. And I'm like, if that was the case, then why didn't you just go out in the mist anyways? If you didn't kind of believe that like anything was out there was any danger of like that, why you up in like the superstore or at the very start? And then when there's very tangible
Well, they were at the store because of the storm and they were getting supplies.
Yeah, I mean, like, why didn't he just leave? Like, if he deemed it like unserious, he's like, this is just like a natural disaster. There isn't anything out there. Why didn't you just leave like earlier? Why you like hold up in the store for as long as
I think first of all, there's a guy who's terrified of what's in the fog, right? So
yeah,
even if he doesn't believe that there's monsters, he might believe, hey, maybe let's wait for the fog to clear.
But then it was just a case of after trying to be shown evidence that there is actually something out there and trying to be like reasoned with, he then comes to this like conclusion that he's going to gather a bunch of people and then just like kind of walk out in the fog. So he just kind of annoyed me. Like the way the idea of it made sense. The way it unfolded just kind of irked me a little bit. I was just a bit like, okay, you're being purposefully obnoxious in this situation. You're just like purposely not listening to what the hell's going on, and it just didn't seem realistic.
But he hadn't seen the monster, right? They were trying to get him to get to the back room where the chopped off tentacle was, and he didn't want to go because he thought it was some kind of prank or setup or ambush or something.
Yeah.
And at that point, he had not seen the monster. And then the question, but then the question is, how much would it take for you to believe that there are monsters out there if you haven't seen them yet? You live in the real world.
But if there was like other people that were like equally skeptic, so at first he thought that they were trying to play a prank on him, but then once they like addressed it to the wider group. And then a few of the people that were also skeptical went back and said, okay, no, like this is actually real. Then it should pique your curiosity to be like, okay, let me actually go and verify for myself to understand the gravity of the situation. Because in that instance, it's life or death. And there's no way you make a choice like the one that he did without kind of collecting all the relevant facts that are like available to him at that point in time. But
yeah. But if you go to a town, or let's say you move to a town, and then your neighbor says your house is haunted, do you really believe them? Like how much effort do you put into getting the evidence?
You don't believe it
in the real world.
In the real world, you wouldn't believe it. But if someone says to me,
I would not straight away, but I'd be curious.
If someone says to me at the back here, here's tangible evidence. It's either you go out in the mist and you face the unknown, or you come back and you see what potentially like might be out there because we have evidence of it at the back. I will go take a look first before I go.
But it's like your neighbor says, don't go outside in the dark because the ghosts will kill you. Will you take them seriously? And what would it take for you to take them seriously?
If he says, if the neighbor said, here's a ghost, here's evidence of a ghost.
Yeah, okay. But like what I'm getting at is in this situation, there's no monsters yet, right? There is no physical evidence yet. And they're making something that sounds absurd because they live in the real world and there's no monsters, obviously, right? Yeah. And also, he has reason to think that it's some kind of prank, right? That they're going to lure him into the back room, and there's like he says something like, "What are you going to do? Just show me like a rubber hose and say it's an alien tentacle, like that sort of thing." So I think that's why he didn't believe it. So whether it was compelling or not is a different story. But I think they do give a reason for why. And I think in movies like this, it's always difficult kind of to get the right amount of skepticism, right? Because the skeptics are set up as idiots, right? Because we know we're watching a horror movie or a movie in which the magic is real or the creatures or whatever. But also the characters don't often have a reason to believe it until they actually see it. But that makes it very tedious, right? Where you have to go through the motions every time of providing the evidence, and people don't believe it. And you talk about, okay, what's the standard of evidence? What like at what point is it reasonable or unreasonable to believe, and so on. Yeah. I think this movie tries, and it sounds like for you it didn't quite work.
No, it wasn't like it. I can understand what they were trying to do, but it just didn't land for me